In our last conversation, we touched a nerve. The uncomfortable truth that your niceness might be a mask, and that behind it lies a deep exhaustion. But as you begin to consider setting your first boundary, as you contemplate your first quiet no, a powerful voice rises up from within you. A voice of fear. It whispers, if you are not the helpful one, the good one, then who are you? What is your purpose? Will anyone still love you? This fear is not just a passing thought. It feels primal. It feels like a threat to your very identity. And in a way, it is. Because you are not just fighting a bad habit. You are wrestling with a force that is ancient, powerful, and lives in the collective soul of humanity. A force Carl Jung called an archetype. And the archetype that has been running your life, silently, from behind the scenes, is the good girl. This isn't about being a girl. It's a psychological pattern, a script, a role you were taught to play so well that you mistook it for your true self. This script promises safety and love, but its hidden price is your authenticity. Its currency is your silence. If you don't understand the rules of this archetype, you will remain its prisoner forever. You will try to change your behavior only to be pulled back by the invisible strings of guilt and duty. But today, we will pull back the curtain. We will dissect the good girl archetype. We will expose its hidden rules, its secret fears, and the powerful shadow it casts. Because to know the script is the first step to finally being able to write your own. The script that runs your life is not written in ink. It is not stored in a book on a shelf. It is written in feelings, in moments, in the silent transactions of childhood. It is a code etched into the deepest parts of your nervous system, a program that learned very early what was required to be safe, to be accepted, to be loved. To understand its power, we must first understand its nature. The psychologist Carl Jung proposed that all of humanity shares a collective unconscious, a psychic inheritance. Within this shared realm exist universal patterns of being, blueprints for behavior and emotion. He called these blueprints archetypes. You know them, even if you don't know their names. The hero on a quest, the wise old mentor, the trickster who upends the rules. These are not just characters in movies. They are psychic structures, energy fields that live within us, shaping our perceptions and driving our actions, often without our conscious awareness. And for many women, raised in a culture that values compliance and agreeableness, one of the most powerful and most insidious archetypes is the one we are here to discuss: the good girl. This archetype is not a personality type. It is a survival program. And like any program, it has an origin story, a moment of installation. This moment is rarely a great cinematic trauma. More often, it is 1,000 tiny moments of quiet, almost invisible conditioning. Let's go back in time to a specific moment. Picture Chloe, age 7. She comes home from school, a whirlwind of pure, unadulterated life force. She has painted a picture in art class, a wild, vibrant, glorious mess of color and glitter, and she is ecstatic. It is the most beautiful thing she has ever created. She bursts through the front door, her little legs carrying her as fast as they can, shouting, "Mom, look what I made! Isn't it amazing?" Her voice is loud. Her energy is big, untamed. She is, in that moment, taking up space in the universe, as is her birthright. Her mother, herself a product of the same archetypal programming, is tired after a long day at work. She is trying to prepare dinner. The noise, the sudden explosion of energy feels like an intrusion. She doesn't scold Chloe. She doesn't yell. She does something far more powerful, far more effective at shaping behavior. She kneels down, places a gentle finger to her lips, and says with a loving but strained smile, "Shh, my sweet girl. An indoor voice, please. Mommy has a terrible headache right now." In that single, quiet moment, a universe of information is transmitted. There was no anger, no punishment, only a gentle redirection. But the 7-year-old Chloe, in her infinite, primal wisdom to secure love and maintain attachment to her caregiver, makes a split-second, unconscious calculation. My bigness is an inconvenience. My excitement is a burden. My spontaneous joy is too much for the people I love. It causes them pain. To be good, to be loved, to keep the peace, I must learn to be smaller. I must be quieter. I must become an expert at sensing the needs of others and putting them before my own vibrant, messy self. And right there, the program is installed. The Good Girl Archetype is born. It is a brilliant, life-saving strategy for a child who is utterly dependent on the approval and care of its environment. It is a silent catastrophe for the adult woman who is meant to be the sovereign author of her own life. This archetype, this script, operates on a set of unspoken, sacred commandments. They are rules you have followed so devoutly for so long, you don't even realize they are rules. You believe they are simply the essence of who you are. Let us bring them into the light. The first commandment, thou shalt not have needs, or if you must have them, they are a private shame, to be handled discreetly. Your needs are always secondary. You see a friend overwhelmed with a new baby, and though you are exhausted yourself, you offer to cook her meals for a week. When you get the flu, you still answer work emails from bed, assuring everyone you're fine. You have become a master of pretending you don't need help, rest, or support, because to need something is to be a burden, and to be a burden is to risk rejection. Pause and ask, when was the last time I ignored a clear signal from my own body or soul out of fear of inconveniencing someone else? The second commandment, thou shalt not feel or express anger. Anger is messy, unladylike, unspiritual, selfish. It disrupts the harmony you work so hard to maintain. So, you swallow it. It doesn't disappear. It simply goes into the basement where it curdles into a slow poison resentment or leaks out as sharp sarcasm or manifests as a chronic, unexplained depression. You become a master of the "I'm fine," a phrase that, for the good girl, is often the heaviest lie of all. Pause and ask, what do I do with my anger? Where does it go in my body when I don't let it out? The third commandment, thou shalt be responsible for the emotional atmosphere. If someone in the room is unhappy, anxious, or upset, you experience it as a personal failure. It becomes your immediate, unspoken job to fix it, to soothe it, to make it better. This turns you into an emotional hypervigilante, constantly scanning faces, adjusting your words, modifying your own feelings to keep everyone else comfortable. It is the most exhausting, unpaid, 24/7 job in the world. Pause and ask, whose feelings do I feel responsible for? Even when I know, logically, that they are not mine to manage. And the fourth, most insidious commandment: thou shalt earn your place through ceaseless usefulness. Your inherent worth is a foreign concept. Your value is not in your being, but in your doing. You are the reliable colleague who takes on the extra project over the weekend. You are the daughter who plans every family holiday. You are the friend who always has the perfect advice. This is why you feel a profound, gnawing guilt when you try to rest. If you are not actively being useful, a terrifying voice whispers from the depths, then you are useless. Pause and ask, what would be left of my identity if I could no longer be the helpful one? This archetypal pattern forces you to live life from the outside in. Your sense of self is not a stable sun at the center of your own solar system, but a flickering moon, deriving all of its light from the approval of others. You become a ghost in the story of your own life, a beautifully decorated, highly functional, and deeply, profoundly empty vessel. The strategy that once kept you safe as a child is now orchestrating your slow, spiritual disappearance as an adult. And a system that so violently denies the truth of your needs, your anger, and your right to simply be, it doesn't just make you disappear. It creates a very specific, very angry, and very powerful shadow. A system built on the violent suppression of the self cannot last. Nature abhors a vacuum, and so does the human psyche. The parts of you that are denied, dismissed, and disowned do not simply evaporate. They are not destroyed. They are exiled. They are pushed down into the dark, damp, forgotten basement of the unconscious. And there, in the dark, they take on a new life. They gather energy. They mutate. This is the creation story of the good girl's shadow. It is the inevitable, equal, and opposite reaction to the impossible purity of the persona. For every angelic commandment of the good girl script, a corresponding demon is born and chained in the shadow. Think of it this way. The persona is the polished diplomat, smiling graciously at the crowded dinner party, making sure everyone's glass is full. The shadow is the starving, enraged refugee, locked in the cellar below, rattling the pipes, making the floorboards tremble, threatening to bring the whole house down. And the great irony is that you, the host, spend all your energy trying to pretend those noises aren't happening. Let's examine these shadow demons one by one, for they are the clues to your own liberation. The first commandment was, "Thou shalt not have needs." This forces the natural, healthy human need for care, rest, and support into the shadow. There, it doesn't vanish. It festers. It transforms into a creature of silent, desperate, and what feels like shameful neediness. This is why you feel a surge of irrational, sharp-edged envy when you see a friend unapologetically ask for help. It's why you might find yourself silently judging a colleague who takes a mental health day, thinking, "Must be nice. I could never do that." The judgment you feel towards them is a projection. It is a reflection of the harsh judgment you hold against the needy part of yourself. You see them as weak or selfish because that is what your inner programming has taught you to believe about your own needs. That needy creature in your shadow desperately longs to do what they are doing, and your intense reaction is a map pointing directly to your own suppressed longing for self-care. The second commandment was, "Thou shalt not feel anger." So what happens to your righteous, life-affirming anger, the sacred energy that is meant to protect your boundaries and honor your truth? It is declared illegal and banished to the shadow. And there, deprived of light and the clean air of expression, it mutates into something ugly and distorted. It becomes passive aggression, the sugar-coated insult, the weaponized "I'm fine" that is colder than any shout. It becomes chronic lateness, forgetting important tasks, or a sharp, cutting sarcasm that you pass off as a joke. Or it turns inward, becoming a heavy, persistent depression or a cloud of anxiety with no discernible cause. Think of Chloe. When her manager dismisses her idea in a meeting and she says nothing, the anger doesn't go away. It goes into her body. It might become a tension headache later that day. It might become the biting comment she makes to her partner that evening about something completely unrelated. The anger, the shadow's rage, always finds a way to leak out sideways because it has been forbidden from ever using the front door. The third commandment was, "Thou shalt be responsible for everyone's feelings." This crushing weight creates a shadow of profound secret irresponsibility and a deep, often terrifying longing for chaos and escape. This is the part of you that when your phone rings with yet another family drama has a fleeting fantasy of just getting in the car and driving away. No note, no explanation, just disappearing. It's the part that, on a bad day, might feel a dark sliver of grim satisfaction when you hear about someone else's perfectly curated life falling apart. See, it's not so easy, is it? This thought is immediately followed by a wave of immense guilt. How could I think something so terrible? But it is simply the cry of a soul that is exhausted from carrying the emotional weight of the entire world. It doesn't actually want to burn the world down. It just wants desperately to put the bags down for a minute. And the fourth commandment, "Thou shalt earn your place through usefulness." This commandment creates the most insidious and painful shadow demon of all. The deep, secret, terrifying belief that you are, at your core, worthless. A fraud. An imposter. This is the imposter syndrome in its purest, most virulent form. Because your persona, your sense of acceptable self, is built entirely on doing, your shadow becomes convinced that your fundamental being is flawed and unlovable. It's the voice that whispers, if they really knew you, if they saw the lazy, angry, needy person you really are, they would all leave. This is why you cannot truly internalize a compliment. It bounces off the polished armor of your persona because deep down, the shadow doesn't believe you deserve it. This is why you over-prepare, over-explain, and over-deliver. You are in a constant, frantic race to outrun the verdict of your own shadow, the verdict that says you are not good enough. It's an exhausting performance with no final curtain. Pause here. Take a long, slow breath. Can you see her now, this shadow self? This needy, resentful, irresponsible, and terrified creature you have kept locked away? The immediate, conditioned impulse is to feel revulsion, to hate her, to be disgusted by her weakness, to double the locks on the cellar door. But this is the great turning point of all meaningful inner work. It is a moment that calls for radical, courageous reframing. This creature is not your enemy. She is your exiled self, distorted by pain and starvation. She is not evil. She is in agony. Her perceived neediness is the ghost of your healthy need for self-care. Her ugly rage is the ghost of your healthy need for boundaries. Her irresponsibility is the ghost of your healthy need for freedom and play. Her worthlessness is the ghost of a soul that longs to be loved and valued for who she is, not for what she does. Every single quality you despise in your shadow is a starved, twisted version of a beautiful, powerful, life-giving energy. Your shadow holds your vitality. It holds your creative fire. It holds your freedom. It holds your untamed, authentic voice. It is the treasure buried deep in the earth, guarded by dragons of fear and shame that you yourself were taught to create. The hero's journey, then, is not to slay the dragon. The journey is to walk into the cave, light a candle, and ask the dragon why it is so afraid. It is to finally see that the shadow is not a flaw in the system. It is a feature. It is the psyche's desperate, brilliant, and persistent attempt to get your attention. To signal that the Good Girl program has crashed, that it is no longer serving your life. It is an urgent, undeniable call to wholeness, a call to finally come home to yourself. To see the shadow not as an enemy to be vanquished, but as an exiled part of the self to be reclaimed. This is the beginning of wisdom. But wisdom, if it remains only as an intellectual concept, is powerless. The journey home to yourself requires more than just a new map. It requires the courage to take the first step. It demands movement. It calls for a new set of conscious practices to interrupt the old, automatic programming. The Good Girl Archetype, as we've established, is a program running on outdated code. To break free, you don't try to delete the program. That's impossible, and it would be like trying to delete a part of your own history. Instead, you begin to consciously write new lines of code. You create updates. You install patches. You do this one small, intentional act at a time. This is the heart of what it means to do shadow work. It is the practical, grounded process of alchemizing the lead of the shadow's pain into the gold of your own authentic power. Let's begin with reclaiming the power of your needs. The Good Girl script says your needs are a burden. Her shadow manifests this as a desperate, silent neediness projected onto others. The work of integration is to relearn the language of healthy self-care and self-valuing. It starts with a simple, radical question. A question you will begin to ask yourself multiple times throughout your day, like a gentle recurring chime. What do I need right now, in this moment? Not, what should I be doing to be productive? Not, what does my partner, my child, my boss need from me right now? But simply, what do I need? When you wake up, before you reach for your phone, ask. Maybe the answer is to stretch for 3 minutes. In the middle of a stressful workday, pause and ask. Maybe the answer is a glass of water and looking out the window for 60 seconds. In the evening, when you feel that familiar exhaustion, ask. Maybe it's not another episode of a show, but 10 minutes of silence with a cup of tea. The answer is often deceptively small. It feels insignificant. But these small acts are revolutionary. Every single time you ask this question and honor the answer, you are sending a powerful message to your nervous system. You are writing a new line of code that says, my needs are valid. I am worthy of my own care. My well-being matters. You are slowly, gently starving the needy shadow and beginning to feed your authentic self. Next, we reclaim the power of your anger. The Good Girl script says anger is dangerous, selfish, and unladylike. Her shadow, in response, turns it into a toxic, simmering resentment. The work of integration is to learn to see anger not as a character flaw, but as a sacred messenger. Anger is pure, clean information. It is the alarm system of the soul, designed to alert you when a boundary has been crossed or a value has been violated. Your task is not to suppress the anger, nor is it to explode with it. Your task is to get curious, to become a student of your own anger. Here is a practice. For the next week, carry a small notebook or use an app on your phone. The moment you feel that familiar flash of irritation, annoyance, or resentment, do not act. Pause, breathe, and write down 3 things. What just happened? Be factual. My colleague interrupted me while I was speaking. What am I feeling in my body? A tightness in my jaw, heat in my chest. What is the deeper message? What boundary was crossed? The message is, my voice is not important. The boundary of respect was crossed. This simple act of observation does 2 things. It stops the anger from turning into a poisonous story about how terrible the other person is, and it transforms the anger from a destructive force into a powerful diagnostic tool for self-respect. It shows you exactly where you need to build healthier fences instead of resentful walls. You are learning to use fire to create warmth and light, not to burn the house down. And what about reclaiming your freedom? The good girl feels responsible for everyone and everything. Her shadow, in turn, fantasizes about chaotic escape. The work of integration is to practice the art of letting go, of giving back responsibilities that were never truly yours to carry. This is terrifying. The archetype has convinced you that if you stop holding all the pieces together, the world will collapse into chaos. This is a lie. A powerful lie, but a lie nonetheless. Let's go back to Sarah, the 45-year-old teacher who feels like her family's central operating system. Her integration work started when she let her son face the consequences of forgetting his soccer uniform. The next step is even harder. Her elderly mother calls her complaining for the 10th time that week about her neighbor. Her automatic programming is to jump in, offer solutions, promise to make a phone call, to fix it. It's her job. But today, having practiced listening to her own needs, she tries something new. She listens with compassion, but she does not offer to fix it. She says, "Mom, that sounds incredibly frustrating. I'm so sorry you have to deal with that." She validates the feeling, but she does not take on the responsibility. She is a loving daughter, not a problem-solving machine. It feels uncomfortable. It feels like she's failing, but she is actually succeeding. She is succeeding at letting her mother own her own feelings and problems. She is succeeding at reclaiming her own energy and her own freedom. She is teaching herself and others that love does not equal endless emotional labor. This is the path. It is not a quick fix. There is no 5-step plan to wholeness. It is the slow, steady, and often deeply uncomfortable work of making thousands of different small choices. It is choosing to honor a need, choosing to listen to your anger, choosing to let go of a responsibility that isn't yours to carry. Each choice is a vote for a new reality, a vote for a self that is not defined by an old inherited archetype, but a conscious, living, breathing presence. A vote for the woman who is finally, patiently, courageously calling all her exiled parts back home. We began this conversation trapped inside a story we didn't know we were living, a story written by the Good Girl Archetype. We brought its 4 secret commandments into the light: to have no needs, to feel no anger, to be responsible for all, and to earn your place through endless doing. We then took the lantern and walked down into the psychic basement, meeting the shadow this script creates, the needy, enraged, and secretly worthless creature born from suppression. And finally, we uncovered the truth that this shadow is not an enemy, but an exile, and that the path home is not through warfare, but through the slow, courageous work of reclamation, reclaiming your needs, your anger, and your freedom, one small, conscious choice at a time. This journey is, in its essence, a profound act of deprogramming, of unlearning a lifetime of conditioning. You are learning to meticulously, gently disentangle your true, authentic self from the role you were taught to play in order to survive. And this is perhaps the most difficult and most courageous work a human being can do in their lifetime. Because the good girl archetype doesn't just ask for your compliance, it offers you a deal, a seductive and powerful devil's bargain. It says, if you are compliant, if you are pleasing, if you are quiet and never cause trouble, you will be safe, you will be liked, you will be loved. And for a child whose very survival depends on the love and protection of their caregivers, that bargain is irresistible. It is not a choice, it is a necessity. But now, as an adult, standing in the middle of your life, you are beginning to read the fine print of that contract. You are beginning to calculate the hidden cost of that safety. And the cost is your own life force, your own vitality, your own voice, your own soul. To break free from this archetype is to consciously and courageously refuse this ancient bargain. It is to stand up in the quiet of your own heart and make a new declaration. A declaration that says, my worth is and has never been up for negotiation. It is not conditional upon my usefulness or my agreeableness. I am worthy of love and belonging simply because I breathe. I am enough, right now, as I am, not because of what I do, but because of who I am. This is not a one-time realization that magically fixes everything. It is a daily, moment-to-moment practice. It is the practice of choosing your own awkward, uncertain truth over the smooth, familiar role of the old role. It will feel wrong at first. It will feel selfish. It will feel terrifying. You are building new psychic muscles, forging new neural pathways. You are perhaps, for the very first time, becoming the sovereign author of your own story, not just a character in a script written by others. But as you continue this tender, revolutionary work, a critical question arises. This good girl archetype and its resulting shadow, they are masters of disguise. They operate in the dark, in the unconscious. So how do you truly know when they are the ones in control? In the heat of the moment, how can you tell the difference between a genuine act of generosity and a move dictated by this old, tired script of earning your worth? How do you know if your reaction is coming from your authentic self or from the wounded, resentful shadow? The invisible program leaves visible clues. Like a ghost in the machine, it has tells. There are specific, recurring patterns in your daily life, your emotional reactions, and your physical body that are not random. They are not signs of your personal failure. They are signs of the program running. They are clear, unmistakable signals that your shadow, born from this deep good girl conditioning, is secretly in the driver's seat of your life. Recognizing these signs is the essential next step. It is the act of bringing the unconscious into the light of conscious awareness. It is how you gain power over the program. And in our next conversation, we will become detectives of the psyche. We will uncover the 7 most common and often overlooked signs that your shadow is running your life. Once you learn to see them, you can never unsee them. And that, right there, is where your true freedom begins.